Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if this is your first time finding me. Today is an interesting video. There is a trend going on social media where you read the 1-star reviews for the books that you gave 5 stars, and I thought that I would be different and unique, and I thought I would do the opposite. And I thought I would read 5-star reviews for books that I gave 1 stars, or like around 1 stars, because I haven't given many books 1 stars, so I think I did 1 and 2 stars books. I want to give a little disclaimer, this is meant for fun. I'm not going to be mean to anyone. I caught like the usernames off of the reviews. I have a purpose to this video that I'm going to explain. This is just for shits and giggles, I promise. This is not to attack anyone. Everyone is very subjective into reviews. I just wanted to do the opposite because I think that some of the books that I don't like, it's not very popular to not like them. Like, I think the books that I like, the more majority of them are people that do enjoy those. So, the purpose of this video is, there's two parts to this idea that I had. Is one, I read most of these books quite some time ago, and I want to go over my review to see if I still feel like it's justified, or if I thought I was harsh. If I would change my review looking back, if I still feel the same that I do now. So that's the first part. And then the second part is, I'm going to see if reading these 5 stars makes me want to reread something by the other author, or if it will make me want to recommend this to someone else, or if I still stand firm in my dislike of the book / author. So that's kind of like the categories he's going to be in. I picked 6 books, and they're pretty much going to get situated into a category of, I'm justified, I will never read this author again. Second category will be like, okay, I was a little harsh, I would try something else by this author. And then the other category is, I feel justified, but I feel less angry, and I would recommend it to someone else that I think would have the possibility of enjoying it. Because these books on these lists, I have not recommended them to people since I read them. Because in my head, these have been the worst books I've ever read. And I want to know if I still feel like these are the worst books I've ever read, or if I feel differently now that it's been some time. Because I think a lot of these books I read over a year ago. One might have been like 2 years ago, if not longer. So we're gonna see. So that's a little disclaimer. I promise this is all for good fun. I might say like a little bit sassy comments, but not towards anyone, just towards the book, to be honest. So let's go ahead and get into this. So the first book that I'm talking about is When I Look at the Sky, All I See Are Stars. And I'm reading off a Storygraph right now, so if I'm not looking at the camera directly, that's why. I read this as a tiny terror for the book club that I'm in, and I hated it so much that it got a 0.5 from me. This is probably the most recent one that I read. I read this in November of 2024. It is by Steve Stredd. It is a fantasy, horror, sci-fi, thriller book. It was kind of like a mix of genres, and it only has 45 reviews on Storygraph, and the average is a 3.38. My review of the book at the time that I read it was, this was a bit too effed up and weird for my taste. I was very uncomfortable with the smut in this, and I felt like I was reading the author's grape, you know what I'm talking about, fantasy, and I was generally confused. I don't think I even understood what happened or how this ended. There was really no indication of who was talking when. So that was my review that I gave it, and I went through and I found the first 3 5-star reviews to keep this fair and even for each one. So the first review that I found, I'm going to post an image because it's a pretty long one, but I'll just read like the gist of it. It said this is their first by this author, and they were appalled that they were just now discovering it, and they were immediately attracted to this book after reading the description. Not much scares them, but the novel definitely spooked them, and that it was like the description of the imaginary of the beast were far too vast for us to comprehend, and his writing made them feel a sense of dread, and I feel like they felt like they needed to look over their shoulder to see nothing was in the room with them, and they devoured it in a day. That's the gist of the review, and I will say that I agree with 2 of those things. I do in fact agree that it was hard to comprehend, and I do in fact agree that it made me feel some dread. I did in fact feel dread because I felt sick to my stomach. This book made me want to vomit. So while I can understand where they're coming from, I can at least relate to 2 of the things that they were saying. But they also said that they would highly recommend this gem, and I would frankly never recommend this gem to anyone. The gem's not even the word that I would think of when it comes to this book. Let's go ahead and read the other review. Let's go to the next review. Not gonna lie, when I downloaded this from NetGalley and read the warning that it was considered splatterpunk, I was very worried. I have very limited experience with this genre, and I don't know what to expect. The author does list trigger warnings at the back of the book, which I love. More authors need to do that. I think the trigger warnings should be in the front of the book. Just a side note, I don't think you should wait to the very end of the book to tell people their triggers. It should be in the front so that people can know what to expect. Anyways, this is one of the best novellas I've ever read. It progresses at a breakneck speed that doesn't leave a reader much time to catch their breath. This is very much a good thing in this case. Things got truly unhinged. Would I say so as well? I would definitely say that. I'm not 100% recommending that fans of horror. Read the trigger warnings before you read the book. I do agree with that. I'm not saying that to say it. Please read all the trigger warnings before you make this. Most of what was going on didn't bother me much, but I seem to have a higher than usual tolerance for the bloody and gory aspects of this. Be prepared to be grossed out if you had to read this. So I do agree with the end part of this, is that, like, the reviewer is pretty much saying that they wouldn't recommend this to everyone. But, like, if you are grossed out by, like, blood, gore, and stuff like that, you might be able to enjoy it. So I definitely do see their point of view on that. But I would agree that it does, in fact, go at a breakneck speed that readers had no time to catch their breath, because it literally made me feel like that. And I would agree that it gets unhinged. I mean, they're not entirely speaking not true things. But they did say that they didn't know how explicit things were going to be. I do think the trigger warnings could have been better. I definitely think they could have been in the front of the book, and they could have been better listed and described to give you an idea of how explicit things were going to be. So last review for this book. It says, for years now, my favorite Steve book has been Must Dawn. I sing its praises everywhere, and man, how would a Must Dawn movie be? What has that have to do with this book? I never would say this, but Must Dawn's #1 spot has been overtaken. When I look at the sky, all I see are stars. It's absolutely rocked my world. I read it in 2 sittings and had to force myself to go to bed and put it down. Hands down, this book is one of the best possession stories I've ever read. Strong 5 stars. I'm confused as to why you spent like 2 sentences talking about a book that wasn't this book and said, like, man, how would a movie be? Okay, what does that have to do with this? Okay, anyways, I don't have anything to say about this, because I feel like they really didn't say too much. They were just like, it's my favorite horror novella, but they didn't say why. They didn't give me much to go off of. So I am sad to announce that I am still in the category of would never read anything by this author again, would not recommend. Very justified in my 0.5. The smut did make me very uncomfortable, because it was more like sexual violence. It came out of nowhere. It was very descriptive when it didn't need to be. It kind of felt like it was a man writing their fantasies into a story with it didn't even make that much sense. But, you know, I did see some aspects of, like, they did, you know, apparently I'm not the only one that it was, like, fast-paced. I'm not the only one that had an issue with how unhinged it was. But they seemed to like it for those reasons. So it just goes to show, like, some things that I might think, oh, that's bad. Some people might be like, oh, that's really good. I like that about that. So that's going to show that this is very subjective. I would not say that it's my favorite horror book that I've ever read. I would actually say it's the worst horror book that I've ever read. Yeah, let's just move on. Let's just move on, because I think I've said my piece on this. So the next book that I'm talking about is Garnet Flatts, which is the 3rd book in the Eden series by Devin and Perry. I gave this a 1 star. I read this in May of 2023. It's been like 2 years, almost exactly 2 years almost. This has 10,000 reviews, and the average is 3.72. I gave it a 1 star. Did I say that? And my review of the book from when I read it was, I honestly rage read this book. All I have to say is, if a man married my best friend and disappeared and came back after 7 years, I would expect a lot of groveling. I'd want him to be begging for my forgiveness on his knees, and there was really none of that. I mean, they slept together before he had even explained what happened. She took him back way too fast. This could have been really good if it was a slow burn, second chance, like if they waited until almost the end of the book to get back together, but instead they rushed them back, and it just felt so toxic. It was like walking red flags for their relationships. I'm not a big fan of books that feature kids in the plot, but my biggest issue is there's not enough groveling. Lack of communication for 7 years just frustrated me beyond words. I will say that I do feel like I was a teeny weeny bit harsh. I would probably have given this 2 stars. Looking back, I probably would have given it 2 stars, because I don't think it's bad enough to be a 1-star because there's nothing problematic about it. It was just that, like, it had an interesting plot. The romance was, like, okay. I just didn't like how fast it got together. Like, it was really the pacing. There was enough groveling, but I don't think it deserved a 1-star. I'm not going to change it because it's just been too long. It's just been too long. It's going to stay a 1-star. But I do feel like this is in the category of, I think I was a bit too harsh. Would I recommend something else by this author? I would, actually, because I've read other things by this author and I have greatly enjoyed them. It has been like, this has been the only book by this author that I have not liked. But I'm going to say that, but I'm also going to go through the reviews to see if anything about the reviews could maybe change my mind about this book a little bit. So the first review says, they just keep getting better. I'm not always the biggest fan of second chance romances, but that's because I've never read one such a huge secret. Talia and Foster will always be special to me. Anytime I paused reading this book, I couldn't shut up about it. I also haven't shut up about it, but not for good reasons. I was so invested in how everything would play out. The dynamics gets better and better with every book, and given we're learning more about each character on a deeper level, I don't know how Devney writes such quick reads with so much context. It leaves me so satisfied. Okay, last sentence I agree with. Devney does somehow write really fast-paced books that leaves me typically satisfied. This book made me want to hate men. And I think this book made me realize that I don't like second chance romances. I think this is a book that made me think to myself, maybe second chance romances are not for me. But I also haven't shut up about it. When people talk about second chance romances, this is the book that I bring up and how much I hated it. So, moving on to the next review. This book had me from page 1. The slow burn tension. Was there one? I don't remember a slow burn tension. The emotional gut punch halfway through. I'm still recovering. I'm recovering from how bad it was. It's filled with heartbreak, growth, and just the right amount of swoon. I don't even remember any swoon. He broke her heart, and yeah, did some questionable things. Why are we forgiving men for that? And now he's back in her small town, determined to win her over with abs, apologies, and a whole lot of groveling. Okay, I don't remember the whole lot of groveling. And should we really forgive a man for his red flags just because he has abs? I don't think we should. A redemption arc that slaps, and you got a story that's impossible to put down. The story is good. The M.A.R.U fight report was kind of hot, but I don't think there's enough groveling. I wanted this man on his knees, begging for forgiveness. Moving on to that, I'll get back into how I'm feeling after I read the last review. Was this so full of insane wild drama? Question mark, yes. Did I eat up every damn second of it? Question mark, yes. Did I still absolutely love the Edens? Question mark, yup. Maybe I'm reading more on vibes tonight, but I'm literally addicted to the series. You know what? I could get behind this, because reading off of vibes totally makes sense. If you gave me the 5-star review because of the vibes of it, I can totally respect that. Like, if you're not even critiquing it, if you're not saying, like, oh, it's the best book I've ever read, blah, 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 blah. Like, if you're just saying, you know what, this was a fun time, I can absolutely respect the hell out of that. So you know what, person that gave this 5 stars, I respect you. I respect you. And I guess maybe I did have vibes for this book. I just didn't have good ones. But I do agree that it had some insane, wild drama. I do agree with that. And that is the 3 reviews for this book. So this is going to go in the category of wasn't for me, but would read something else by this author, and I would also recommend this to someone else who might really be a big fan of second chance romances. I just prefer my men to not marry my best friend and be gone for 7 years and then try to come back to get back with me. I don't know. Maybe I'm different. Maybe I'm not like other girls. Anyways, we're gonna go on. Moving on. Would I have given this... Did I say that I would have given this 1 star? No, I didn't. I said I would have given this higher than a 1 star. But nothing higher than a 2. Like, this probably deserved a 2 in the overall of it all. I think I was so angry at the time that I just gave it a 1 star because I was like, wanting to say like a big F you to the book, but in reality, I don't think it's the worst of these. I think that Where and I Look at the Sky, All I See Is Stars is way worse than this book. So not even on the same level of hatred I have. So this is the second book on the list. So the next one, I feel like a lot of people are gonna hate me for this, and please don't be mean to me. Remember that we all have opinions, and it's okay. It's okay to have opinions. The next book on this list is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I read this in September of 2023. I gave it a 2-star. I actually DNF'd it. I've actually never touched an Emily Henry book since. I have a dislike for this book that's pretty strong. It has 217,000 reviews and an average of 4.21. So a very popular book. Like, a lot of people tend to really like this. And then there's me with 2 stars. And my review of this book was, this book was so effing boring. I think that watching paint dry would have been more entertaining than this book. First of all, what is Miss Emily's obsession with writing about dead parents? Her parents are alive and well, so like, what the F are you projecting? It's effing weird. These characters have no personality. I tried so hard to read it just because I only had 100 pages, but I was informed by a friend this book really doesn't have an ending, and I was like, hell effing no. Okay, let's just say, I think that is the truth, but I think I could have said it in a nicer way. Do I think that it was boring? I definitely do. And do I think that watching paint dry is actually more entertaining? I do. I do stand by that. But I do think I could have just left it there. Don't think I had to bring up the whole dead parents thing. Because, like, she's wrote about dead parents, like, multiple times where her parents are alive. Like, why is she writing about that? Like, it's so interesting. But I think my review is really harsh because I put things in, like, capital letters. I was, like, screaming, this book is so boring. These characters have no personality. And I think I could have just said it in a nicer way. But I do justify my 2 stars. I do still think it's a 2 stars. Why am I saying 2 This ain't freaking basketball. I do justify my 2 stars. That's not going to change. I think that I was harsh, but I think that I would have kept it at 2 stars. I just would have wrote this review in a nicer way. We're going to go ahead and go into the reviews. Please don't be angry with me for this one. I feel like this is the one I was most scared about. This might be my favorite Emily Henry book. The dialogue banter in this was sharp, funny, and amazing, and I caught myself laughing out loud so many times. That's so funny that you would say that. Like, I'm laughing at your review because I quite literally don't remember one moment in the book that I was laughing. Maybe from pain, maybe from, like, boredom. Like, I was, like, so deranged from reading this book that I was laughing at how bored I was. The dialogue banter, I guess it was, like, good, but they also had, like, no chemistry to me. They had, like, none. But, you know, I'm so glad this is your favorite Emily Henry book. I'm really glad that you enjoyed it. And I'm really glad that you shipped these characters. So that's so great. I'm not gonna say anything else about that one. This is the Hallmark movies of books. Y'all. Such a cute romance that I absolutely ate up once I started getting into it. Listen to me. Listen to me. If you're gonna say that this is a Hallmark movie of books, then catch me never watching a Hallmark movie ever again, because what? This is so freaking boring. You're telling me this is the Hallmark movies of books? I don't have words. We're moving on. I can't say anything about that. I literally cannot say anything nice about that because what do you mean? What do you mean? Okay, a book with a smart verbal woman. Aren't most women verbal? Isn't it verbal? Why are we defining women as verbal? Do most women not speak? Didn't know that was something to praise in books. Romance isn't always my genre, but I really enjoyed this. Definitely looking for other books by this author. You know, okay. You had a nice, simple review. You were very straight to the point. I am questioning why you said the word verbal. Like, the smart, calling her smart, I definitely agree with. She was a very smart character. I just don't understand your usage of verbal. Like, what do you mean by verbal? Like, do your women in books not typically speak? Are you reading romances with mute women? I wish I could contact this reviewer and ask what they meant by that. So here's the deal, guys. This is the deal. I will personally never read another Emily Henry book unless I am told by multiple people that it was good. If multiple people that I personally know and love and respect and have similar tastes to came up to me and said, you know what, May? Emily wrote this new book and you have a 50% chance of enjoying it, I would probably pick it up. But I don't foresee that happening in the future. But I did read Beach Read by this author before I read Book Lovers, and I gave it like a 4. Like, I liked it. So really, Book Lovers might have been the problem, but Book Lovers was so bad to me that I have not tried anything else by her. It gave me PTSD and books. So, I'm gonna put this in the category of, I feel like I was justified. I was a little harsh, but I would recommend this to other people, is what I was gonna say. That's what I'm gonna say. Would I read this author again? Probably not. It's a very slim chance, like maybe a 10% chance that I would ever read this author again. The next book is Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. I read this in April of 2023. It has 125,000 reviews with an average of 3.73. I give it a 2-star. My review was, I thought the writing was cringy and cliche, and it felt like Wattpad writing in the worst way possible. The female main character was boring to me, and I really felt like there was nothing really going on with the plot. It all felt very bland. There were some cute moments, which is why I even gave 2 stars, because honestly, this is the worst book I've ever read. Even the smut was just mad to me. This book is so overhyped, so I went in expecting a great romance, but it just fell flat for me. I think a lot of it is that I'm not super big on sports romances, but funny enough, I was intrigued by the hockey aspect. It was just the actual writing got me. So I also think I wish I could have had more of them go from enemies to lovers, which happened too fast for me. I would have liked a little bit more angst. Me saying this is the worst book I've ever read is crazy. I don't feel the same. I would probably have given this like a 2.75 because it's not the worst book I've ever read by far. I do think the writing was cliche. I do think the writing was cringy. I do think the female main character was like a paper bag. She had no personality. She was boring. She was bland. But it had some really cute moments that I really, really liked. So I think I wouldn't have given it a 3-star, but I think I would have given it like maybe a 2.75 instead. And then for the reviews that I picked out, here we go, guys. Nate Hopkins is such a comfort character. Reading the ragey reviews of this book is a reminder that books are served at different purposes for different people. It's escapism, it's a fun banter and unrealistic expectations, and this story isn't supposed to be broody or dark. It's a reliable, golden retriever hockey romance, and this is a really good one. I love the incorporation of long-term therapy for the FMC and how her family background is handled. You know what? I have a lot of respect for this review because I do agree that books serve different purposes for different people. And I also think that a book serves a different purpose for when you read it, at what time you read it. Because I could read a book and hated it, but if I read it at a different point in time, I might have loved it because it might have hit different for what was happening in my life. So I do have a lot of respect for this reviewer because I do think that they have a very good point about how, like, some people really probably like this because it was escapism. Like, it was cute, it was, like, supposed to be, like, fun, and it was supposed to be, like, bantery, and it was supposed to be, like, unrealistic in the sense, like, you would be able to escape inside of it. And I do think that the therapy side of it was really done well. But, once again, it was the writing for me. Moving forward with the next review. So despite me complaining about how long the book is, I actually really, really enjoy it. I think I'm so used to insane plots after my Mafia era that this was just dull in comparison. They gave this as 5 stars, by the way. However, it was giving fan fiction in the best way. I wouldn't say that. I think I would say the opposite. I audibly sobbed when they announced who the team captain was going to be. Speaking of Nathan, I would let that man do dirty things to me. Actually, I let the entire hockey team do dirty things to me. Did I mention I'm in my hockey era? Anyways, I ended up enjoying it way more than I thought I would, so yay. I don't know where to start with this review. The mention of the Mafia era, wanting to get banged by the entire hockey team. You know, I can get behind that. I do love some hockey players. They're pretty attractive. Wouldn't say that it made me cry. I wouldn't say that it's giving fan fiction in the best way possible. I would say that I did complain about how long it was. So we have some similarities. We do in fact have some similarities. You know, we have something going for us in the line of understanding each other. It was dull. You're so right. To say that a book was dull and still give it 5 stars is so hilarious to me. Okay, moving forward. Holy smut! This might have more than 50 Shades of Grey. You think this book has more than 50 Shades of Grey would be in fact true, because 50 Shades of Grey is not like an actual smut book by today's standards. Do not let the cartoonist cover fool you. 18 plus only. Y'all would be horrified to know what kind of smut I read. The kind of smut that I read that is way worse than this. And I don't want to like call this person a prude or anything like that. Because some people, you know, have different levels of smut that they want to read. Some people don't want any smut. Sometimes one scene is too much smut to some people. I'm giggling at this might have more than 50 Shades of Grey. It does, because 50 Shades of Grey is not actually like a smut book. It's like more of like, in my head, it's more of like an explorative, like, kinky book. And it's also satire in my brain. But I do agree that like it should only be read by 18-year-olds, because I don't really love the idea of like young teenagers picking this book up. You know what I mean? Like, obviously 17-year-olds are like close enough to being 18, but like I don't love the idea of like a 13-year-old going into the store and picking this book up thinking it's a cute book because of the cover. So I definitely think that point of view is good, like them saying that don't let the cover fool you. I do agree with that, because I feel like so many times these authors they trick little kids into reading them. I don't want to say little kids, like they trick young adults into reading them when it's actually not fit for their age range. So I think that cover should be more of a hint of what's in the book. Like, you can't just put these two cute characters in the book and then expect people to know what's going to happen in them. I do agree with you on that. You made me laugh. This review made me laugh. Because I got so distracted. I don't think I even said what category this can go into. So I do think I would have given it a 2.75. And I don't think that I'll read anything by this author ever again. But I do think if one of my friends wanted to have a cute, fun, quick, easy romance that had like minimal thought, I would probably recommend it to them. But only in specific occasions. Like, only if they came to me for that kind of romance. If they were like, give me the best romance that you ever read, it would not be anywhere close to the top of the list, is what I'm gonna say. The next book that I read was a thriller / mystery called The Island by Natasha Preston. I read it in September 2023, and I gave it a 2.5. And it has 3,000 reviews, an average of 3.26. I think my friend Kristen wants to read this book. God, I might talk them out of it. I'm scared. So my review of this was, it was an interesting plot, not much of a fan. Ending really pissed me off, but apparently that's how all of her books are, so I won't be reading any of her other works. That's a very fair review. I wasn't harsh. I do agree, and I simply have not read anything else by this author for the exact same reason. I don't like books that don't have endings. I've talked about this before. I don't read books to think. You need to write it out for me. I want you to hold my hand from plot A to plot B to plot B, C to plot D. I want my hand held the entire way from start to finish. If you give me an open-ending plot to be like, oh, well, just imagine the ending to yourself, I'm gonna be pissed. If I wanted to freaking think, I'd write for myself. Like, I would have wrote this book myself and created the ending myself. Like, I did not read this to make my own ending up. I read this for you to give me the ending. So I hate books like this. If you give me an open ending, you're automatically getting a 2-star for me. Automatically. I could love the plot. I could have loved the whole book before then. If you give me an open ending, it's automatically getting a 2-star for me, because I hate it. I cannot stress how much I hate open endings. It's so stupid to me. Like, you've wrote this entire book up until now. You couldn't have wrote one more page giving us some kind of actual ending? I don't like it. I don't like using my imagination. Do I even have imagination? I'm really not sure. But I simply just wish that it almost feels lazy to me. It feels lazy to me when authors do this, because it's like, you couldn't have come up with an ending. Did you just not have any ideas? Did you just, were you being mean and you wanted to make everyone just not know? I don't know. I hate it. I'm sorry. To the reviews, now that I just bashed that, this was an excellent young adult thriller. I love the island amusement park setting and the isolated locked room scenario. I actually did enjoy that. The author did a great job of creating an atmospheric and gothic setting as 6 influenced their lure to the amusement park for an exclusive weekend. I also agree with that. I found myself rooting for Paisley as she tried to escape the island's murderer, and I was invested in trying to figure out who it was. This was a thriller that I didn't want to put down, and the ending had me shocked. I actually agree with this review. I do agree with everything they said. I just would not have given it 5 stars for the reasons why they did. I do think it was a very interesting setting. I do think the author did a great job of like making that setting. The ending had me screaming at the pages. Yeah, and I'm so angry about the ending. So am I. Seriously, can put it down though. So they said that, but they gave it 5 stars. Interesting. I give it 2 stars for that exact reason. So it's just so much like the things that I have that bothered me. It's reasons why people gave it 5 stars. It's so crazy for me to think that way. Okay, hold on. Next one. Holy blank. This was so good. Please, I need someone to read this. Okay, well, I read it. So we're already aligned. I already read it, Bessie. Don't worry. That's why we're here. It was good until the end. So this is going to go into the category of I would never read something by this author again, but I would recommend it to someone that doesn't care about open endings. If I had a friend that was like, oh, I don't mind open endings, I think they're fun, like I'd be like, oh, well, you'd really enjoy this book. If I have a friend that hates open endings like I do, I would quite literally tell them to steer away. So we only have one more book left, and this one's going to take a little bit of processing and thinking. So the last book that I'm going to talk about in this video is I Am Jade by Chris Beam. I read this in June of 2023, and I gave it a 2.75. And this has 900 reviews and an average of 3.44. And my review is kind of long, so let me just get into this. It says, I don't know if I love or hate this book. I have very mixed feelings about it. This book was wrote in 2011, so I have tried to keep that in mind while reading, but it made me so uncomfortable to see that the D slur being used over and over in the book. If the main character would have been a lesbian, that it would have been fine, but the main character was a trans man, so the fact that the author included so like that so many times made me unbelievably uncomfortable. Not to mention, even though the main character is trans, he still several times says some pretty screwed up crap about other identities in the LGBT community. And I get that the book was supposed to show the ugly side of transitioning, and I get that learning about yourself and potential identities is a big part of that. But like I said, some of the things he said was downright like lesbian phobic and homophobic. I think it's a very important story to have out there, and in ways I'm glad it exists, but I think the writing should have been different. I think the author could have kept the narrative without some of the rhetoric it was spewing. I will give it to them. They didn't stray away from the hard topics, like it talked about self-harm, body dysphoria, and other negative things that the trans community deals with. Like it also touched on how depression can strike even after taking tea or having the surgery. I think this is all very important to talk about, but it was just heavy as F to read. At several points, I was so uncomfortable that I thought I was going to have to stop reading. I thought about what the impact this would have had first come out in 2011, because the environment around gender and sexuality was drastically different to current times. And I wondered to myself, if I read this when it came out, would I feel differently about it? But maybe I wouldn't have loved it and absolutely praised it. But reading it in current times, it feels borderline offensive, especially since the author wrote about being a trans POC and isn't a part in either community, is what I gave it. I would like to say, the last sentence, I think I should not have put, because I actually can't tell you if that author is trans or not, because some people are just not out yet. And I think that in the last year or so, I have really been aware of that. Like, we can't assume people's identities. We can't, just because they haven't said it out loud doesn't mean that it's not happening to them. This author might have been on their own trans journey when writing this. And yeah, it's been like 13 years. So like, they could have come out, but if they were on that journey, but sometimes it's not linear, it's not a straight line, sometimes it's a freaking curve, sometimes it's like going up and down mountains, and I don't like that I said that. The POC part, to my understanding, they are a white author, so I do think that that part of the sentence is valid, but the whole they're not a part of the trans community, I actually can't say that for sure. I can't say that with any certainty at all. I do think it can be a little iffy if a straight author writes about an LGBT character if they're not in the LGBT community themselves, but I also think that like it can be done very well, and I don't think it was fair of me to say that, to be like, oh, well, they shouldn't have wrote this book because they're not in the community. One, I don't know if they're in the community. They might not have come out yet. they might be going through their own journey. And two, even if they're not in the community, I think that they can still write books about the community, because we want to be recognized and appreciated. And I just think that we can't just say, oh, don't write about us unless you're in the community. When I think it can be done very well. Like, I've read books by straight authors that are very beautiful. I think for me, my big issue about this book, which it's been so long I don't even remember, the writing was definitely like homophobic, lesbian phobic. Like, the writing made me very uncomfortable, and I think that's my main issue with the book. So I do think that I was being nice when I rated this. I think I probably would have rated this lower in all actuality, because I think a book using the D-slur, when it's not okay to use the D-slur, I think this should have gotten like an automatic like 1 star. So I think that I should have gave this book a 1 star. I'm actually thinking I was being nice when I read this. But to the reviews, I'm going to read those now and we'll come back around. It says, I have several friends and family who have begun the transitions who I think this novel would be monumental for. I've read a lot of LGBT books, but IMJ was certainly one of the best. It's a one-sitting read that will have you feeling a range of emotions on the page. Well, I did in fact feel a lot of emotions. I did in fact feel a lot of emotions while reading this. You're so right. You're so right. This book was beautiful. I loved it. So full of heart. I love the descriptions of how Jay felt trapped and how no one would understand. I liked how he was able to express himself through his art and how he found true friends through his journey, and the overall representation of how trans people feel truly was amazing. This book will destroy then rebuild your heart. And then the last review, a very gritty, realistic, wonderful book. Damn, they are really straight to the point. So I agree that this is a book, the representation about trans people was done very well. It was very eye-opening, it was very realistic, it was very gritty. I think my issue with the book is how it talked about other identities. I think it brought down other identities when it was trying, like, it was one of those situations where it was like, oh, I have to insult someone to compliment someone else. In reality, you can just compliment other people without having to drag other people down with them. So you can just be like, you don't have to be like, oh, well, trans people are great, but lesbians suck. Like, you don't have to say that. You can just be like, oh, lesbians and trans people are great. Like, you can just say that. It doesn't have to be one or the other. And I just don't love how the author talked about the other identities in the book. And I think that's my main issue. So I would say that I would probably not recommend this to anyone because it's very heavy. I would not put anyone through this because I remember feeling so heavy reading this. Like, so I am in the trans community. So maybe that's why it hit me so hard. But I also just don't think I would want to read this book by someone who used the D-slur. So this is the video. I hope you have liked it. I know it was interesting. I've never done one of these videos before. I tried my best to not be too mean. I tried my best to be honest. And I tried my best to just, have some fun. Honestly, I don't think that I put any of them in the would try by the author again. So maybe this video didn't have the purpose that I thought it was going to, but I also don't have time to film another video, so you're just gonna get it. You're just gonna get it, and then you can be mad at me if you want to be mad at me. I am doing a readathon, May and June. I've posted about it a few times. It's called Moving with Pride. We're doing some prompts. I will have the bingo boards listed in the description. We've been kicking it off. We're a couple weeks in, and I'm having such a great time with it. But I am doing like a Pride reading challenge where we're trying to do a pages goal. So if you're participating and you'd like to help us get some goals met, please feel free to use the spreadsheet linked in the description to submit your pages. I have some goals going, like some stretch goals going for like pages read. So yeah, so we have like the main goal. This is all the rewards are for Twitch because I've been streaming on Twitch. So and it's just easiest to do things there. So like if we get to 7,000 pages, we'll get a Pride cow for stream. And then 14,000 pages is a Pride cow emote. 21,000 pages is chat picks my reads for the week, and then 28,000 pages is an annotating Pride buddy read, and then 35,000 pages is a Pride movie night in the Discord, and then 42,000 is a Pride book giveaway, and the highest goal is 48,000 pages, and I'll do a Pride playthrough of Coral Island. So those are just some stretch goals that I have going on in my Twitch streams. If you would like to participate and help out in any way, I am having so much fun. I've read 6 books at this point, and it's going really well. I think I'll be doing this yearly. So even if you can't participate in this now, you can always join us next year. and I just want to talk about the stretch goals. The places to submit your books, the places to find the graphics and stuff, it'll be in the description of this video. But I think that's it. I think this is all I have to say today. I will see you guys next week. Next week starts my kickoff of Pride YouTube videos. I'll be pretty much doing just Pride videos for the next 3 or 4 weeks. I'm going to be doing recommendations for each genre. So I'll be doing like Pride fantasies, Pride romances, Pride scary books. And then you'll have to stick around for that. Instead of an emoji, tell me the worst book that you've ever read. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next week. Hopefully you can check out my other videos. I have a ton up at the moment. And you can find me on other social medias at Moving with May. You can find me on Twitch. I stream 3 to 4 times a week on there. I do mostly reading sprints, so if you're ever wanting someone to co-work with while you're doing your Pride readings, you can always find me there. We have a fun time. And yeah, that's all I have to say. I'm gonna go for reals now. Bye, friends. Have a good week. I hope you had a good week. I hope your rest of your life is very mutastic. And I'm gonna go to bed. Bye-bye.